The multifaceted Slovenia is one of the smallest countries in Europe. Approximately 2 million people live in its area of 20,000 square kilometers. Before becoming an independent republic in 1991, it was the most western member of Yugoslavia. In the geographical, political, and economical sense of the word also, since for decades it retained its title as the most affluent member state. The country, bordering Austria and Italy, has very favorable conditions, so in its life, tourism has always been a defining power. Half of the area of Slovenia is covered by forest. It has a small but very scenic part of the Adriatic coast. And it also has mountains of 2,800 meters, scenic mountain lakes, great alpine-style ski slopes, green hills, unique karst caves, medicinal water springs, and tumbling mountain streams also. All this, supplemented by lovely little medieval towns, archaic castles, and a growing number of sports and recreational opportunities, makes Slovenia an increasingly attractive tourist destination. Maribor, with its 109,000 residents, is the second largest city of Slovenia. It was built on the two banks of the river Drava, close to the Austrian border, on the hills at the foot of the Pohorje mountain. In 1846, the Vienna-Trieste railway line made the city an important transit station of people heading to the sea. It becomes an independent destination primarily in the winter, when skiers on the Pohorje mountain lodge here. The ancestor of the city today was founded in 1147 by the Austrian Sponheimer counts as a defense against the continuous attack of the Hungarians. Under the frontier castle, gradually a little frontier town developed, and handicrafts and trade developed nicely. In 1254, the settlement was raised to the rank of city with the entailing privileges. Under the time of King Matthias, Hungarian troops occupied Maribor, which has been using its present name since 1836. 13 years later, it became an episcopal seat. Its university was founded, and after World War II, industry also started developing. Today, Maribor is famous for its fairs, attracting thousands of locals and foreigners. In the place of the old bridge, a wooden bridge stood for 7 centuries, which was replaced by a new one with a metal construction, but it kept its old name. Looking around from the bridge, we can see 3 bastions: the Jewish Tower, the Judgment Tower, and the Water Tower. All of them strengthened the old city wall and were built during the Turkish scourge. The bank of the Drava has the best atmosphere in the city. The part of the city called Lent is also nicknamed Little Venice. In the old houses, restaurants, cellar taverns, and pubs with terraces have been established. The sun-kissed hills of Slovenska Gorica has been a famous wine-growing region for centuries. Barrels of wine were shipped from the harbor at the coast of the Drava to the furthest areas of the monarchy, some of them even reaching the royal table of the emperor in Vienna. In the middle of Maribor, in the area of today's city park, there were once vineyards. A 400-year-old grapevine near the old bridge is very much treasured. They say it's the oldest bearing vine in Europe. Its grapes are processed strictly separated. The wine is filled in 2.5 deciliter bottles and sold at a high price as a specialty. The summer festival of the city part and the harvest festival in the autumn attract countless visitors. In the Water Tower, we can find a wine museum today, where the exhibited items can, of course, also be tasted. In the other 2 towers, this is impossible, since art exhibitions are held there. Behind the Jewish Tower, the old synagogue still stands, around which the Jewish quarter was located in the Middle Ages. The round Judgment Tower was the corner of the city wall. Summoners lived in it, and this is where judgments were made. The center of the old town is the castle square. In the middle, a statue was erected for St. Florian, the patron saint of firefighters. In the Middle Ages, the houses were built of flammable materials, lighting was provided by candles and torches, and heating and cooking were done by open fire. Fires were frequent, which often destroyed large parts of the cities. When they were over, they erected a memorial pillar, just like after big epidemics. The castle of Maribor was built in 1478 to the order of Frederick III. After consecutive reconstructions, its architectural style can't really be defined anymore. Its eastern side is protected by massive castle walls, and the graceful replica of the Loreto Chapel leans to the western side. In the luxuriously furnished Knight's Room and in the rest of the sumptuous rooms, the city museum is located. The main square, Glavni Trg, is situated in the southern part of the old town. In the center stands the Baroque plague pillar. The Golden Virgin Mary statue and the saints around it are the works of Master Straub. The group of statues commemorates the Great Epidemic in 1680, when approximately 1/3 of the population died. The biggest building of the square is the City Hall, which was reconstructed several times, but at last got its original Italian Renaissance form back. The Venetian-styled balcony is beautiful. The Baroque tower is from the 18th century. The St. Aloysius Church and the friary built together with it served the Jesuits until the order was dissolved. Then it came into the hands of the army. Slomskip Square was named after the first bishop of Maribor, whose statue also stands here. The Cathedral of John the Baptist was built on the grounds of the old cemetery. This is what the gravestones built in the walls commemorate. The city can be proud of having its own opera house. The 20th century red brick building was named after St. Mary. With its monumental size, it towers above the friendly little houses. Partizanska Street, starting from here, leads to the modern part of the town, to the railway and bus stations. Here we can find the post office, tourist office, police station, and several banks. North of the line of Trg Svoboda and Partizanska, there are no more monuments, but the city park is worth seeing. The large green area also includes a botanical garden and an aquarium. Let's have another look at the archaic houses of the streets, perpendicular to the Drava. Ptuj lies 26 kilometers from Maribor. Its population is only 1/10, yet it resembles its bigger sibling in many ways. Due to its size, it only occupies the left bank of the Drava, but there are certain signs pointing to expansion to the other side as well. The Romans set foot here in 35 BC. Their city, named Poetovio, gained its wealth by commerce with Pannonia, with its residents building palaces, baths, churches, and theaters. The flourishing town was destroyed by the Goths, the remains by the Huns. So not much was left of Poetovio. Only 2 kilometers from Ptuj to the north, a graveyard was excavated from Roman times, numbering 2,000 graves. The bastions and towers of the old city wall still stand here, built as a means of protection against the Turks. And just like in Maribor, there's a plague pillar too. The palace of the bishop, Maligrad, which later functioned as a prison, stands near the St. Gregory Church. The city tower was originally meant to be a bastion. Later it became a bell tower, only to become a clock tower after that. In its foot, Roman stone ruins were built, found in the 19th century. Today, on the ground floor, there's a tourist information office. The 5-meter-high Orpheus monument is the biggest Roman monument of Europe, carved from a single stone, in which the Roman patrician Marcus Aurelius Vera lies. The carving of the sepulchre tells the mythological story of Orpheus. In the Middle Ages, in a somewhat sacrilegious manner, the stone was used as a pillory. The Dominican monastery was used as military barracks after the order had been dissolved. Then, between the two world wars, it was developed into a museum. Its lapidary exhibits the Roman stones excavated in the city. The St. Peter and Paul Church, built in the 18th century, was almost completely destroyed in the bombings of World War II. But the Minorite monastery built together with it was successfully renovated. Here, also thanks are given to St. Florian for the passing of the Great Fire on the pillar in front of the City Hall. The tower is not the only thing where Roman stones were built in, building a bridge, so to speak, between the Roman times and the city of today. The castle also stands on the grounds of an old Roman fortress. It was built in 1140 by order of Conrad III. Later, it was the estate of an Austrian general of Scottish origin named Leslie. The Knight's Room tells about the life of the old castle. The rooms are filled with the items of different exhibitions. For instance, we can see an exhibition of musical instruments or one of clothes of the times. Johann Heberstein painted the portraits of Turkish people of position by whom he was entrusted. The series of paintings is unique. The family of the nobleman with artistic aspirations ruled the city for centuries, and they were driven away only after the properties were in state ownership following World War II. Under the red marble sepulchre on the court of the castle lies a former captain of the castle, Petau. From the castle, an excellent view opens up to the river and the new thermal bath on the opposite side, the 2 open and 3 covered pools of which are used primarily by people suffering from rheumatic illnesses and those of the motoric system. Slovenia can boast many excellent ski slopes, such as Bohinj, Vohec, Kranjska Gora, Planica and Rogla, and Pohorja over Maribor. After the collapse of Yugoslavia, the remaining coast for Slovenia, although very scenic, was really small. Thus it was necessary to involve other natural treasures and opportunities in tourism. This is when the ski slopes, rafting, horse riding tourism, golf, and medicinal baths gained in popularity. By this, it became possible to fill up the hotels with tourists in all 4 seasons. In summer, a cabin cable car takes vacationers up to the 1,517-meter-high Rogla, while in winter, 3 chairlifts and 17 ski lifts. They can operate the slopes, consisting of 14 kilometers of difficult tracks, 20 kilometers medium, and 30 kilometers easy tracks, with the help of snow cannons even in winters that have scanty snowfall. During the time of the World Championship held here, they also built a lighted track section that can be used at night. From spring to autumn, to the great pleasure of children, a summer bob track may also be enjoyed. Celje is the 3rd largest city of Slovenia. It's an important commercial and transportation junction. It got its name in antiquity from the Illyrs and Celts. The Romans called it Celeia. Just like many other Roman settlements in this area, it was also destroyed by the Huns. Not much was left of the theater, baths, and shrines of the flourishing city. In 1333, the Zovnik family received the city from the king. They took on the name Count of Celje and became the Székely family, well known in Hungarian history. Hermann Székely II married his daughter Barbara off to the emperor and King Zsigmond. The power of the Székelys ended at Nándorfehérvár, where Ulrich was hacked to pieces by the followers of László Hunyadi. Then the centuries-long rule of the Habsburgs started in Celje. An attraction of the city is the royal palace, also called Bottom Castle, and the old castle reigning over the landscape from a height of 407 meters. The Count of Celje once lived in both of them. Their renovation and archaeological excavation is still in progress. The 35-meter-high Frederick Tower has already been renovated, and the open-air theater on the castle court is also finished. It's not only theatrical performances that we can see here. Castle games are held on several occasions when nightly tournaments and many other colorful sights entertain the guests. The nightly tournaments organized in such authentic surroundings are always to the great liking of viewers, just like the stunning panorama which opens up from the terraces and bastions of the castle. The region is a center of hops growing and Slovenian beer brewing. Ljubljana, with its 276,000 residents, is a city which is still humane in size. It's not only a capital city and administrative center, but also a cultured and beautiful place, in some places with the intimacy of a small town. Ljubljana lies in a basin of the same name, at the intersection of the Alps and the Dinari Mountains. This is where the roads leading from the area of the Alps to the Balkan Peninsula and linking the Mediterranean world with the Pennine Plains meet. The city was a station of the famous commercial route of antiquity, the Amber route leading from the Adriatic to the Baltic Sea. The image of the capital city is defined by the Ljubljanica River, which runs through the city flowing towards the Sava, separating the old city parts on the right bank and the more modern parts on the left bank of the river. In the first millennia BC, the Illyrians appeared. They were followed by the Celts, then the Romans, who founded the merchant town of Emona, the ruins of which can still be found today. The settlement was destroyed by the Huns of Attila. The Hungarians ravaged the area during their rovings around 900. The settlement became the center of Carinthia and Kraina by the end of the 10th century. The Hungarians were followed by the troops of Rudolf of Habsburg. Then the Ljubljana of that age came under the influence of the German Order of Knights, and from 1461 it was the episcopal seat. The Turkish besieged the city several times, though unsuccessfully. At the time of Napoleon, it was the seat of the Illyrian provinces. The development of the city was given a boost by the opening of the Vienna-Ljubljana-Trieste Railway in 1846. In 1895 and also in 1897, the city was shaken by a serious earthquake, destroying a number of buildings. Presino Square lies at the meeting point of the medieval Old Town and the new downtown, which was named after the greatest Slovenian poet, Franka Prešeren, whose statue also stands on the square. We can reach the Triple Bridge, the artwork of Josip Plečnik, on little streets framed by Art Nouveau-style houses. In almost every city, there's an architect whose work determined the image of the city for centuries. In Ljubljana, that architect is Plečnik. He designed the Market Hall, the library, Tivoli Park, the seat of the Academy, Central Stadium, the cemetery, Shoemaker's Bridge, the university, many churches, schools, and other public buildings. We can approach the citadel of Ljubljana through steep, narrow streets. The foundation of the present building was laid in the 9th century. First it was in the hands of the princes of Carinthia, later the Habsburgs possessed it. After its best days, it was used as a prison. Count Lajos Batthyány, Hungarian Prime Minister, was also held captive here. The Baroque Church of the Franciscans is the work of Italian masters, just like the St. Nicholas Cathedral, which was also created by an Italian master. Several rulers had been inside the walls of the episcopal palace. Leopold I, Charles IV, also Napoleon, and Russian Tsar Alexander I spent nights here. The oldest city of Slovenia, Skofja Loka, celebrated the 1,000-year anniversary of its foundation in 1973. Between the 10th and 19th centuries, the city was the property of the Bavarian episcopate. Its history is similar to those of nearby cities: Turkish siege, great fires, epidemic, and earthquake. Skofja Loka was struck by this catastrophe in 1511, so its present-day image is the result of later reconstructions. The streets of the old town are framed by Gothic and Renaissance houses. Among them, the group of buildings of the Kapucinus Church and Monastery. In its library, the oldest remaining handwritten Slovenian drama is kept, which is performed in the spring in the open air. In the opposite direction behind the Caserne, there's another monastery. It first belonged to the Clarissans, and after they were dissolved, it went to the Ursulines. Both groups of buildings are of the same age as the bridge from the 14th century. The old market square is the most beautiful square of the country, according to many. In the middle, there's a Trinity statue and a stone well decorated with the coat of arms of the city. The medieval atmosphere of the square is also preserved by the banning of motor vehicles. On the bridge of the Sora River, the familiar statue of St. John Nepomuk welcomes the traveler. The bridge is the oldest stone bridge of Europe in this form. The arcade courts of the Gothic houses in the area offer a special experience. From the steep road leading to the castle, we can delight in the view of the city, the Hrabets Mountain, and the Holy Cross Church standing on it. If time permits, this shouldn't be missed because we can take the best pictures of the castle from in front of the church. We can walk up to the castle, the oldest part from 1215, beside the remains of the old city wall on a steep road. The building, seriously damaged in the earthquake, was thoroughly rebuilt. From 1890, it functioned as a monastery. Today, it's a museum with archaeological and local history and fine art exhibitions. A little further on, a little sconson was established, representing the folk architecture of the region. The fourth largest city of Slovenia lies 35 kilometers from the capital city, at the meeting point of the rivers Sava and Kokra. Kranj was an important station on the road between Virinum and Emona even in the times of the Romans. The ancient core of the city was built on the castle hill, embraced by the two rivers. The 30-meter canyon, deepened by the Kokra River, can best be seen from the bridge at Postojna Street. On the main street of the old town, we can find the memorial room and the old house of the poet Franka Presarin. He and his fellow poet, Simon Jenko, lie in the city cemetery. The Glavni Trg is the center of the old part of town. St. Cantiano's Church was built on the grounds of a Paleo-Christian prayer house. Its altar paintings were made by a very famous master of the time, who was only known by the name the Master of the Kranj Altar. The originals of the artworks can be seen in the Belvedere in Vienna today. The City Hall was brought into being by joining two older buildings. The hall of the new part of the building with its coffered ceiling is the most beautiful of this style in the country. The ancient Slavic graves found under the building can be seen through the glass panels laid in the floor. In the wall of the building opposite the square, Roman stones were built. The St. Rosary Church and its surroundings is the artwork of the architect Plečnik. It was he who reconstructed the building that bears the marks of late Gothic and placed it in worthy surroundings. In the area of Kranj, the river Kokra, streaming rapidly from Austria, offers opportunity for whitewater rafting. Bled has been a popular medicinal holiday resort for centuries. Nowadays, it excels in the organization of incentive trips, congresses, and conferences. Its region is visited by thousands of hikers and those who seek active relaxation. A Christian church has stood on this island since the 9th century. It became a famous pilgrimage place, so the church was rebuilt and expanded several times. It's had its present-day Baroque shape since the 17th century. On the walls of the Church of the Ascension of Mary, remains of old frescoes can be seen. Below its deck, pagan shrines and graves were excavated. Behind it stand the houses of the provost and the priest. However, there are no lodges on the island that could accommodate the pilgrims. On the coast, many lodges and inns stood even in the 14th century. The island can be approached by the gondola-like boats called pletna, which await the guests at many places. Its main harbor is in the regatta center. Bled, together with Postojna and Lippizan, was one of the most desired tourist destinations even in the time of the United Yugoslavia. The lake itself is a mountain lake lying on the east brink of the Julia Alps in a magical natural environment. It was developed due to the meltdown following the Ice Age. Its present size is approximately 2 kilometers by 1 kilometer. Its water heats up to 24 to 25 degrees Celsius in summer, so it's not only suitable for boating, but also for swimming and bathing. Power over the area was held by Charles the Great for a long time, then by Emperor Henry II. The latter donated the territory to the Episcopate of Brixen, who stayed here until the 20th century, except for the Napoleonic times. It was significant for the popularity of Bled that Alexander I, Tsar of all Russian people, had a holiday home here. Even 1,000 years ago, a castle tower stood on the place of the castle palace of Bled, although it was not so much the view that was so fascinating. The tower later was supplemented by residential buildings, fortified with more towers and surrounded with a wall. The Roman-style tower can still be seen today. The later parts were rebuilt after the earthquake in 1511. The castle today is divided into a lower and an upper castle. A friendly little museum can be found in it, with a small wine bottler and a printing press barely later than the time of Gutenberg. The original apparatus of the castle are also exhibited: pieces of furniture, weapons, armor, and paintings. A little parish church stands below the castle hill. On the square in front, a column commemorates Arnold Rickley, the doctor of Swiss origin. The medicinal springs of the region were known only by local people first, Later the news spread great distances by the pilgrims of the church. The springs were written about with scientific thoroughness first in 1689, but they only gained real popularity nearly 2 centuries later by Dr. Rickley, who successfully cured his own illnesses with the medicinal waters of the Bled area, becoming an enthusiastic propagator of them. In 1903, Bled earned the gold medal of the World Exhibition of Balneology in Vienna, and from this time it's been on a par with Bad Ischl, Karlsbad, Abatia and Tushnad as a significant bath resort of the monarchy. Tourism was given a big upswing by the building of the Vienna-Trieste and the Ljubljana-Travis railways. The latter frontier town is known today as Tarvisio. Around the lake, we can find 6 large hotels today, a youth hostel and 2 camping sites, but most of the private villas also rent out rooms. The glittering mountain lake, with a little island in the middle, and with the girdle of the high mountains reflected in its surface, grabbed people's attention, it seems, when the castle palace had not yet been built and the church tower had not risen on the island either. Even in the Bronze and Iron Age, people liked to settle here, and it also appealed to the aesthetic-loving, delicate Romans. Part of the archaeological material excavated here can be seen in Kran, and the bigger part can be seen in the museums of the capital. Triglav National Park is only 25 kilometers from Bled, and its center, Bohinj Lake, is a worthy match of that. The nature reserve was established in 1924, and it was expanded significantly in 1961. Its area of 83,000 hectares is girdled by high mountains. It's recommended both in Bled and Bohinj to walk around the lake to fully enjoy the beauties of nature. Bled and its region are abundant in sports opportunities. More and more golf courses are being built, and the mountain rivers with their strong currents provide ideal settings for rafting. Water tours of varied difficulty depart from a number of places, in the price of which special water-resistant clothes, safety helmet, and equipment are included. Our baggage will be watched over on the coast. We shouldn't take along mobile phones or cameras. If we'd like to capture these experiences, we can buy a disposable camera closed in a water-resistant case that's sold in photo shops of bigger cities. Those whose adrenaline level was not raised high enough by rafting may try mountain climbing, paragliding, and bungee jumping. Between Bled and Bohinj, the romantic landscape of the Julia Alps offer plenty of opportunities for these activities. Naturally, there's possibility for more serious hiking trips and mountain climbing, and in winter for skiing. One of the main spectacles of the national park is the Slapsavica, the 78-meter-high waterfall. We can approach this by a good half-hour walk, departing from the rest house in Savic via the stone bridge over the Mala Savica River. The mountain tracks, among many other things, attract mountain biking fans to the regions of Slovenia in large numbers. The fauna of the area of Bohinj Lake is very rich. Among the 5,500 species we can observe eagles, chamois, mouflons, wildcats, and even bears and lynx, assuming we're looking very hard for them because they're not very curious about tourists. By the way, hunting is strictly prohibited in the national park. At most, we can hunt with our camera and a good-sized telescopic lens. Apart from the lake, Lippizan is considered the biggest tourist center. The largest number of hotels, restaurants, and shops are here, as well as a tourist information office with maps and recommendations for lodgings and programs. The shore of Lake Bohinj is full of rafters, bike riders, and hikers in the summer, and skiers in the winter. It's peak season all year round. From the southwestern shore of the lake, Ukans, a cable railway takes us to Fogel Mountain, where in winter, 8 ski lifts and almost 20 kilometers of slopes of varying difficulties await the guests. It's possible to buy or rent ski equipment in Lippizan, and we can also buy a ski pass here. The highest located slope starts from 1,800 meters. Advanced skiers can ski down to the bottom of the cable railway if they aren't distracted by the wonderful panoramic view. The highest mountain of the region is the 2,864-meter Triglav, covered with snow, while the Tolminka Strait as the lowest spot rises only 180 meters above sea level. This ski center is perhaps the area of the Alps with the most snow. There have been years when it was possible to ski here as late as April, and the snowplows slumber until November. The dripstone cave of Postojna is the longest known cave of Slovenia in a karst area and is the gem of the karst region stretching between Postojna and Trieste. The surrounding landscape is characterized by unique natural phenomena: gorges, caves and canyons, lost rivers and temporary lakes, like Lake Cerkvica, which is only half a meter deep but stretches 40 square kilometers. In Postojna, so far, 20 kilometers of channels have been discovered, some of them dry, some of them with water, others completely underwater. The cave was discovered by a climber, Lippizan, in 1818. Based on the excavated stone tools, archaeologists believe that the caves of Postojna and others in the region were also used by cavemen from time to time when they were hunting for cave bears and other animals 50,000 years ago. In the cave, the remains of several extinct animals were found. The signatures on the walls of the entrance rooms are indicative of the fact that the cave was known already in the 13th century. Since then, cavers, climbers, geologists, and other experts have found further channels. They studied the age, creation, and development of the cave, along with many other processes of the karst region. The first railway was built in 1872. In 1884, the torch and candle lighting of the cave was replaced by electric lights. In 1962, the cave train was built, running on double rails round and round, allowing the nicest parts of the Postojna cave to become available for 14,000 tourists a day. This main tourist attraction of Slovenia has been seen by 26 million people so far, the number of visitors exceeding 500,000 a year. The dripstone cave of Postojna developed in limestone ground, which arose about 70 million years ago in the sea, in the Cretaceous. In the Tertiary period, the sea pulled back, and on the dry land, the karst processes started. In the Pliocene period, the rivers on the surface started leaking into the ground, and they continued to flow under the ground to the north, heading towards the Piran Sea of that time, the present-day remains of which is the Black Sea. The lost rivers developed channels on 3 galleries. The oldest, the dry channels, are on the highest, and the youngest are those with watercourses 15 to 20 meters below us, which are being formed today by the lost river of Pivka. The most extensive medium level of the Postojna cave was deepened by the progenitor of the Pivka River in the early Ice Age, 1.5 million years ago. Due to the karst development, that is the deepening of gorges and cracks in the limestone, the river gets deeper and deeper, and there it makes new channels and floods the upper parts of the channels only from time to time, always rarer. The cave of Postojna is famous for its abundance of dripstones of different colors and shapes. The little pipes and stalactites hanging from the ceiling are the smallest. The stalagmites and limestone cones are the biggest. On the walls we can see chalk slate curtains. The stalactites and the stalagmites grow together to form columns of dripstones. The rainwater reaches the top of the cave and, leaking from the surface, dissolves the limestone. When the water drops reach the ceiling of the cave, calcium carcinate secedes from it. Many cave animals live in the underground karst world of the Postojna dripstone cave. Many unique species of insects, mantises, spiders, crabs, and centipedes. The most well-known is the human fish. This pink, blind type of salamander breathing with gills. It can live as long as 100 years and can only be found in the real karst waters of the Dinar Karst region, where it feeds upon microscopic animals. The little fish swim under the inaccessible gorges filled with water to the rivers under the ground, where they're caught exclusively for the purpose of study. The human fish, as a rare species, is especially protected. The specimens that can be seen in this pool reach their natural habitat after 2 months, when they're replaced with new ones. Big Mountain is the highest point of our journey, 40 meters above the entrance of the cave. From here, a 500-meter-long artificial channel starts heading to the back and the Pivka cave. We pass by the most beautiful dripstone, the Brilliant, which is the symbol of the Postojna cave. Continuing along the foot of Big Mountain, beyond the train stop, we reach the concert hall, which is the biggest hall in the cave. The 3,000 square meter hall is almost 40 meters high and can hold even 10,000 people. The echo here is very strong, and it lasts nearly 6 seconds. From here, the little train returns to the entrance. As it's generally known, dripstones grow very slowly. Experts ascertain that they grow only 0.1 millimeters during a period of 10 years. Thus, if we break a dripstone, it's not possible to replace it. In the cave, the temperature is relatively stable. In winter and summer alike, it's 8 to 10 degrees Celsius, so we have to make sure to wear warm clothes. Predjama, the most scenic castle of Slovenia, can be found 9 kilometers from Postojna. This ancient nest was built on the protection of a huge cliff bending over it, above a gaping abyss. The present-day building is from the 16th century, but even 3 centuries earlier, a smaller castle had stood here, which may have used the special conditions of the landscape even better. The lord of this castle was Erasmus Luger, a robber knight, about whom many myths are spread in the country. Under the castle, there's a river-deepened complex, several kilometer-long network of caves branching out to thousands of channels, a real foxhole. The unabashed knight made full use of this when he offered fresh fruit to the besiegers of the castle. Naturally, he gained fresh water from here also, from the underground rivers. In 1991, buried treasures were found in this system of caves, and who knows what else is hidden under the earth. The exhibition, located in the 6-storied romantic building, makes us familiar with everyday life in medieval castles. Castle games are organized here once a year when knights in costume battle each other, and medieval merrymaking and feasts also take place. The famous Lippizan stud was established by Archduke Charles in 1580 to breed fine battle horses by crossing the strong horses of the karst region with elegant fiery Andalusian horses. The horses reached the Spanish riding school, which was established at that time. During the storms of the following centuries, the animals had to be saved from Napoleon and from World War I and II. This is how some of them reached the Czech Republic, Italy, and Hungary, but the biggest stud can still be found here in Lippizan. When born, the Lippizan horses are gray or brown, and they turn white only when they're 6 or 8 years old. There's great demand for these elegant, harmoniously moving animals. The horses, showing Spanish and Arab influence, are intelligent and learn quickly. They're equally suited to be good show or riding horses and working horses. In the 310-hectare Sports and Recreation Center, horse shows are held. Moreover, since golf was becoming more and more popular in Europe, there's an excellent course awaiting the lovers of this activity. The capital of the Slovenian coast is Koper, which is only secondarily a beach resort. Primarily, it's a regional center and industrial city known for its cargo harbor and ship factory, where most of the local people work. The old core of the city of Koper, embraced by modern residential areas with its 30,000 residents, similarly to other settlements of the Adriatic, creates a real medieval atmosphere. The peninsula reaching into the Bay of Koper was once an island in the late Middle Ages. The narrow coastal strip was filled up and the city became approachable on dry land. A Greek colony settled on the island first. Later, it was called Capria or Goat Island, and its modern Slovenian name originates from this word. The island belonged to the Roman Empire, then to Byzantium, and for the longest time to the great conqueror of the Adriatic, Venice. The influence of the winged lion has not passed here without a trace either. As a commercial harbor, its wealth could be attributed to the export of salt, wine, and olive oil. Its decline was caused by continuous Turkish attacks, which was further worsened by the Great Plague, in which 3/4 of the residents died. Out of the 12 gates opening on the city wall, the Muda Gate has remained in the best condition. The ornaments of the Renaissance Gate are reminiscent of the Venetian Republic. Its builder was the son of the Contarini family, which gave several doges to the city of canals. Passing through the gate, on the square in front of the St. Vast Church, we can see the map of the city from 1619, cast in bronze. The Da Ponte well, similar to the famous Venetian Maecenas, stands at the end of the square, together with the memorial column of the victorious Lepanto battle against the Turks. The famous Venetian painter Vittore Carpaccio was born in one of the houses of the square named after him. The main square got its name after a great figure of a later age and is still called Tito Square. The monument of the old town that can be seen from a great distance is the St. Nazarius Cathedral, the frescoes of which praise the art of Carpaccio. The 36-meter tower standing next to it, bearing marks of the Renaissance style, was built originally as a watchtower, its bell and steeple added later. Many coats of arms of patrician families known from Venetian history can be found on the palaces and churches of the city to this very day. Koper has been almost completely built together with the little resort Ankaran, with 2,600 residents and with long sandy beaches and many types of accommodations. Izola lies 7 kilometers from Koper. As shown by its original Italian name, it was also once an island, connected with the dry land only in the 19th century. Its history is the same as that of Koper or Piran. The center of the town is the colorful harbor and the ever-busy quay. Some of the old arcade houses still bear the relief of the winged lion and the coat of arms of families, also reminiscent of Venice. The St. Maurus Church and its graceful belfry is the twin of the Church of Koper. We can also see in this the artwork of Venetian masters. The town is made more colorful by Baroque and Rococo facades hidden between Renaissance houses. Next to the park on the seaside, we can find a fish and fruit market, and the small but attractive beach is not far either. Piran is the nicest settlement of the Slovenian coast. a fishing village with 5,000 residents still retaining its medieval characteristics. Until the 6th century, it was inhabited by Illyrs, later by Romans and Slavs. Its name originates from the Greek word pyros, or light tower. From 1282 to 1797, it was under Venetian rule. This long period left a deep mark on the image of the town in the form of beautiful Venetian-style palaces, wells, churches, and statues. Following the fall of the Venetian Republic, it was under French, Austrian, then under Italian rule. Many still call it by its Italian name, Pirano. After World War II, until the change of the system, it was part of Yugoslavia together with the entire Istrian Peninsula. On the narrow streets with their Dubrovnik-like atmosphere, motor vehicle traffic has been limited, and we'd also better leave our cars outside the town walls. The wonders of the small settlement can best be discovered on foot. The main square of the town is the Tartinievtrug, which was once a harbor and was filled up in the 19th century. The 2 columns on the harbor side of the square are decorated by the coat of arms of Venice and a picture of St. Gregory, the patron saint of the town. The name giver of the square is the greatest son of Piran, the composer and violinist Giuseppe Tartini. The memorial room of the artist can be found in the house of the square, numbered 7 behind the statue. Out of the buildings of the square, we must mention St. Peter Church and the Venetian House. The town hall stands out from the Venetian-style little palaces. It shows the influence of contemporary architecture of Vienna. The Baroque St. Gregory Church, with the rotating statue of the name-giving saint on its tower, rises far above the houses of Piran. We can find the crypt of the Tartini family in this church. On the square is the small St. Peter Church, originally Gothic but reconstructed in 1818. Above the entrance is a relief of St. Peter, and inside a statue of the Piran cross. The cistern of the town is very interesting, in which the rainwater, valuable in dry summers, was collected. It's supported by allegoric Baroque statues. The arcade houses with loggias protected the residents of the town from the sun, who still like to spend their time in the shade in the espresso bars and restaurants here. It's worth following their example. The Venetian-style town gates and the view from the towers are beautiful. From the harbor, ships depart regularly to Venice, Koper, Portoroz, and the Croatian islands. Piran also proves that the short coast of Slovenia is the gem of the Adriatic.